In this episode of Men Talk 2, every man's got a story, but some stories go beyond success. We sit down with Tony Cuccio.
You're so dedicated to making your business work that sometimes you pass other things up, like spending more time with your children and your family.
A man who turned passion and purpose into a global legacy.
So I took $200 worth of eyeshadow and nail polish and lipstick and started selling on Venice Beach.
This is real talk, honest moments, and the kind of wisdom you only get from a life fully lived. This is Men Talk 2.
All right, welcome back to Men Talk 2. Today's episode is one that flips the script. Our guest today knows that better than anyone. He started with a suitcase of dreams on Venice Beach in California and built a beautiful beauty empire that now spans more than 110 countries. He's a creator, a visionary, one of the most authentic men we know, and I am honored to call him my dear friend. Please welcome Tony Cuccio.
Thank you.
Great to see you, Tony. Great having you here, my friend.
Thank you.
You've literally spent your whole life making the world more beautiful, you know. But today we want to talk about how beauty can't just be bottled, but what that would mean for men.
Well, first of all, you got to look at the word metrosexual. It's been around for about 10, 15 years. And what it really means, it has nothing to do with sex. It just means that men who now are taking care of their bodies like women. You know, 50 years ago, my father wouldn't use a skincare regimen, okay? But now it's okay in the new generation of men to take care of themselves. So metrosexual is very, very important. There's no reason why a man shouldn't take care of his skin, shouldn't take care of his body, and shouldn't take care of his health. So it's a whole different view from a man. You don't have to be macho. You can take care of yourself and use beauty regimens to make yourself look younger.
And you're starting to see a lot more of that with men's skincare and
well, thank
grooming.
God. Thank God for the young men, the kids in their 20s. They don't have any problems with using skincare. They don't have any problems with doing different treatments and taking care of their skin, where my father or my grandfather would look at it to be feminine,
right,
or a sissy.
Well, we were talking earlier in the green room that recently you have gotten, for the first time, dermatological treatments, which I've recently as well. And it really changed my life. Not only was it pre-cancer for me, and it was taking care of my insurance completely. I couldn't believe it. $1,800 treatment, a $900 treatment, etc. And they took off, and my skin looks the best it's ever looked, and I feel younger, and I feel more beautiful as a man.
That's a great point. I was in Stake 48 in Beverly Hills 6 weeks ago, and this beautiful young black woman walked in, and I asked her what she did. And she says she's a dermatologist surgeon in Beverly Hills. And I said, wow, where'd you go to school? Harvard. I said, that's pretty impressive. She said, when was the last time you went to a dermatologist? I said, I'm 71. I've never been to a dermatologist. And she looked at my face and she said, why don't you have all those sunspots? I drive a Rolls Royce convertible and I've been in the sun for years. And I said, do I need to go to a dermatologist? She said, you're coming in Thursday at 1 o'clock. She spent 2 hours removing 15 spots on my face, and she made me put my head down. And she said, you have cancer on your head. I forgot which type it was. Wow. And she said, do you want to come back to have it removed? I said, no, do it now. Good. And if I didn't meet her, I would never go to a dermatologist, and I'd probably have problems in a couple of years. But it's a great point that David is making. Men should go to dermatologists. Men should do treatments, not only women. My wife goes every year to a dermatologist. I always thought that I didn't need it. My skin is fine. But as you get in your 60s or older, your skin changes, so it's important.
Yeah, you need to be proactive about your health and be proactive about your how you're grooming yourself and taking care of yourself. That's a good lesson for us.
I think you have to be proactive not only about your health and about your skin. You got to be proactive about your life.
Exactly.
So that's more important. Just looking at different things differently. How you take care of yourself. What do you do? Weight loss. For the first time, I went on one of these weight loss ones. I've lost 20 pounds so far.
You look great, my
well,
friend.
Got your fighting weight, my man.
I'm not there yet, but it makes me feel better.
Let me ask you this. We talked about, I know a little bit about your history, and we talked about Venice Beach.
Yes.
So tell me about that period of time. You were broke, pretty much.
Well, I got married at 25. I was dating my wife since she was 12. And I was working in Downstate Medical Center as a neonatal respiratory therapist, making $3,000 a month. She came home the first month of marriage, and her Chanel and Hermes bill was $18,000. And I looked at it, and I said, "What is this?" And she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. That's what I spend every month." I said, "Who pays?" She said, "My father." I said, "But you're married to me. I'm Sicilian. I pay." She said, "Well, you can't afford me." I said, "Well, you shouldn't have married me." So I took my brother, because I didn't want to go to work in the porno business. Her family was in the diamond and the porno business, and I didn't want to do anything illegal. And I moved to California, to Venice Beach, and a guy owed me $200 from a card game. I used to play in a Jewish card game, and he couldn't pay me. And it was the last day I was leaving, but he made nail polish and eyeshadow. So I took $200 worth of eyeshadow and nail polish and lipstick and started selling it on Venice Beach. And the first day, the lipstick melted because it was hot. I was the first person to sell on Venice Beach in '81. Nobody was selling. And I just thought it was more traffic than Fifth Avenue.
Sure.
So I rented 5 square feet for $50. I wish I would have bought the lot, but I didn't have the money at that time. And
You were just approaching women on the street as far as...
No, we had a table right on the boardwalk. Now when you see all these vendors we were the first. I just saw all this traffic, and I said, "Wow, you could pay thousands of dollars on Fifth Avenue to have thousands of people roller skating and walking by." So the idea was to sell. So the lipstick melted and nail polish exploded from the heat. And my brother said, "Maybe I should go back to college." I said, "Don't give up so easy in life."
Exactly.
Let's unplug the cap, so the heat expansion, and let's use your chest as a color chart, and we'll put the lipstick in a cooler, and we'll pick it out when they pick it. So, sometimes you got to be lucky. And from there it took off. We went to Westwood Boulevard, and we'd have to sell in Allendale's because you couldn't sell on the street. But I knew that Allendale's was private, and the police couldn't stop you. And it was a men's clothing store that had beautiful lighting. So we set up our tables there at night. And from there, one thing led to the next, and we needed a DBA. And the teller at the bank said, "What's the name of the company?" I said, "I don't know. We just need to cash checks."
Yeah.
So they said, "Who owns it?" I said, "Stephen, Tony, and Roberta." He said, "Well, that company's name is Star." So from the beach, we got a little warehouse, and I started traveling to 90 countries. Everybody thought it was crazy, getting on a plane, going to Africa.
So you've been married this whole time, right? Since you're
I've been married
kid.
48 years. I'm with my wife 58 years since I'm 12.
Okay.
59 now.
So your wife knows the business you're in. You travel everywhere. You're with beautiful women all the time. You do seminars with only women in different countries, correct?
My wife and I have the greatest understanding in the world. She's my best friend. I work from 5 until 1. She works from 2 to 8. So
At the same office.
At the same factory.
Right.
We have 200 people and 2,000 people globally. My wife knows what I'm good at. I knew when I married my wife that she was a strong woman. And I knew she'd never be jealous as long as she knew I was doing the right thing.
What was your vision behind selling? It was lipsticks and...
Well,
it wasn't nails from the beginning,
No,
right?
it wasn't nails. Nails had just started.
Right.
There was an eyeshadow company called Stage Light in the early 80s in Madeline Mono, and they invented the first eyeshadow with fish scales in it that would give you that glitter effect.
Right.
Until that date, all of them were flat colors. And it was kind of like going to the circus, because these girls would stop and put it on, and they couldn't believe what this eyeshadow did. So we kind of got lucky bringing the first Madeline Mono or Stage Light. And it was all no brand. And the ironic part about California is New York, you can go anywhere and get private label, your own brand. But California in 1981 was behind the beauty business and never had private label. So it was the first time you can go to Ventura Boulevard to Cassandra,
Right.
who owns Sebastian,
Right.
and I could make her own brand of 12 eyeshadows.
Why do you think, as a man, that you were so successful in an industry that is catering only to women with women's products?
I think I do seminars in 90 countries, 2,000 women. My seminars how to make money in the beauty business. Okay, I never really sold a product. I own 5 companies. I have 3,000 products. I never sold a product. I always sell myself, and people buy my products.
Right.
So selling yourself is the most important thing. Being in the beauty business and having all these women work for me and being all over the world, you have to understand women.
Right, so you had to be a good listener and a good communicator to understand what their needs and wants are.
It's really psychology because you have to really think like a woman,
Right,
but be a man.
right.
So
Do you think there's more pressure on you or your wife?
my wife doesn't have any pressure. She just shops at Hermes and Chanel and runs the books and the money. She never did any of the selling. The selling was always not pressure on me. My mother once said you could sell a cat off a dead fish truck.
Yeah.
And the great part about doing seminars is you can get 2,000, 3,000 women and you can teach them how to double or triple their income. So the fun part is I've probably made 50 women millionaires.
Right.
And back in the 80s and the 90s, it was very easy because nails started in California, artificial nails. And get back to your question, I didn't really have the vision of cosmetics because there was a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
But back in 81, there was nobody doing it. It actually started in California in the 80s. So I was able to be the first person in the computer business or the first person in a new industry. So it was easy to invent products. One of my greatest successes was in 82. I went to China. And I started bringing products in the early 80s from China because I was buying a Dappin dish from Corning Glass for 40 cents, and China quoted me 3 cents.
Right.
And I realized in the early
There's our
80s,
margins, yeah.
the margins is 1.4 billion people in China. So it was going to be the workplace of the world. So I made a lot of my money, my first 50 or 80 million, going to China.
Let's talk about the price of passion, Tony. You've made a fortune. You could live 100 more lives. You've got 2 beautiful daughters, I believe.
Yes, 4 grandkids.
4 grandkids. So what is the price of this passion that you've created?
Well, first of all, it's not a monetary price. It's a mental price. And the first thing I can tell you is the price wasn't high for me because my grandmother told me once, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm 71 years old. I went to work today at 5 o'clock. I can't wait to get there still. The price of passion doesn't cost you anything. The price you pay when you have too much passion is the price you pay because you're so dedicated to making your business work. You're so dedicated to making money and being successful that sometimes you pass other things up, like spending more time with your children and your family.
How have you been able to find a balance?
Well, thank God I have a good wife, and she took care of the kids, and she made the girls grow up to be, good individuals. It's hard. That's really when David asked me the price. When you're so dedicated to be successful and you're traveling to 30 countries a year, the price is you're giving up quality time with your family. So if I told you I was able to manage both, I'd be lying.
Right.
Because my wife did this much and I did this much.
Trade-offs.
What does she think about you have such a big personality. I mean, I see you everywhere. You get 50 million hits on this and that. You walk into a place, people just, are fawning over you, especially when you're the king of your own seminars and your own destinations when you're traveling.
So she's not worried. She doesn't like it. I mean, if I drive my Rolls Royce around Beverly Hills with the top down with rap music on, she would never get in the car because she's not that type of person. Sure. But I think what she always knew is that I was doing it for the family. I was doing it for PR. I was doing it to build the business and build my brand. You got to remember, when you own a company, you are your brand. It doesn't matter what widget you sell. It doesn't matter what business you are your brand. So you always have to sell yourself.
When you were at the lowest of your low, because everyone has hits lows and highs and it's all currency, whatever. When you were at the lowest of the low, how did you dig yourself out of that or take yourself out? And was this all luck? You know, this, that? Do you believe in higher power?
It was 95% perspiration and 5% luck. But they asked me once when I made Inc. magazine how I was successful at 27 years old, and I said, my parents. And the interviewer said, well, your parents in business? I said, no, my father was a plumber for the transit authority. I wanted to say he used to clean the toilets when they got stuffed up. And he said, well, how did they help you? I said, you know, if your parents give you so much love and they wrap their love around you, you don't think you could fail. Right. So, you know, low is a different meaning for everybody. I never was low on life. I was low on the challenges to get to the next level because we all reach our Peter Principle. And I think one of the best books I ever read by Tom Peters was The Peter Principle.
Was your dad your mentor? Did he inspire you?
My dad died at 46. I was 16. I would pay $50 million right now to have him back for one day.
Right.
And you want to know the reason? Because he'd look at all my real estate, he'd look at what I've done for all these people and the kids, and he'd grab me by the throat. And he'd say, Anthony, I told you not to go in the mafia.
Exactly. And he'd say,
there's no way you did this.
There's no way you did this legit.
There's no way you did this legally.
Yeah.
And that's not acrylic powder. That must be cocaine. So I paid him $50 million just to let him know that he loved me so much and he gave me so much of a foundation that I was able to be successful because of his love. I'll just tell you what a great father he was. He was the coach of the baseball team, and I was 19-1. And he told me I sucked because I lost that game.
Right. Perfection.
I should have been 20-0.
Right.
What about your mother? Did she get remarried, or did she, how did that affect the family?
My mother lost like 40 pounds, and she was really anorexic, and thank God my grandmother moved her in, and she learned ballroom dancing. I moved her to Boca. I bought her a condo, and I took care of her.
Like every Jewish or Italian kid.
Exactly. But here's one of the great things. I've been in 90 countries, Africa 26 hours with a half-hour stopover, and I always went coach. And people always ask me, and I made my mother a deal when she was 50 years old, okay, when I started traveling. Every trip I went, whatever the difference between first class and coach was, I would mail her a check the day I returned.
Oh, what a good boy.
Well, it wasn't
What
a good
nice
boy
boy.
because in my mind, I was taking a little pain from sitting in coach, but the gratification I got out of my mother when she received the
Right.
check
Was amazing.
was amazing.
Exactly.
It was better than a sore neck.
So
That's
you took
great.
care of your mother maybe the way your father might have taken care of your mother.
I took care of my mother better than my father
Better.
than he could have because he didn't have the education or he didn't have the way of making money.
Gotcha. And I'm just going to go back one more generation.
Yeah.
The grandparents, do you know about all this?
Well, that's pretty interesting. I'm double inbred. I don't think anybody on this podcast or in the world has ever met anybody who's double inbred. If you don't know anything
What
about
does that mean exactly?
Well, genetics is one. You have two genes for everything in your body, okay? And my family, I found out when I donated to the church in Sicily, the priest said to me, Madonna mia,
Yes.
which means, oh my God.
God.
He said, do you realize that your family for 200 years could only marry first cousins? So if you know anything about genetics, you have one dominant and one recessive gene. So when I was 6, my grandmother were first cousins on both sides. Their mothers were sisters. Okay? Mm-hmm. So my grandfather told me when I was 6 I was going to be a genius because I was inbred. So when I went to school, I raised my hand and show and tell in first grade, and I said, I'm going to be a genius.
You're a genius or the opposite?
No, I'm going to be a genius
There's
because
no middle
I'm
ground.
inbred. And the teacher kept me after school and said, go home and show your grandfather this book. You could be a degenerate or a mongoloid. You could go bad. Or you could be a genius. So when I went home, my grandfather said, I can't read English. Put the book away. You're going to be a degenerate genius. You're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars and have a fun of spending it.
There you go. That's a good life.
There you go. So yeah, my mother was
Sounds
just,
like a happy family.
yeah, my mother was just a common person who loved her kids. No, she never got remarried. She was always looking for the love that she had, and she never
Right.
found it again.
It's tough, man.
Sometimes it comes once in a lifetime.
Yeah, so what I find so impressive about you, Tony, is the fact that you are this, kid from the streets that has done very, very well, starting off in Venice and now becoming, a monster success with billion-dollar brands. So you had to be a really good listener to be intuitive to what women would want in these different cosmetic nails that you've created.
The most important thing for any human being is to know one thing. Plato, not Plato, was Greek philosopher. He was known for one thing. I know one thing for sure. I know nothing. How do trees take out CO2 and put in oxygen? How did one piece of sperm make a human being? We know nothing. So one of the things that was very helpful to me, I said to my mother before she died, did you know that I was going to be so successful? Why? And she said, that's why. She said, ever since you've been 2 years old, you ask why 20 times a day.
Right.
And I said, Ma, I asked why because I didn't know why, and I wanted to know why because I didn't know why. So I have to say why. So I think what you're just saying is whatever business you're in, but mine with dealing with women, is I always had to think like a woman, not like a man. I'll give you, for instance, I own racehorses, and 20 years ago, my horse was running, but I had to take my daughter to get a pedicure. And the nail technician made us wait 20 minutes for her toenails to dry. So that night, I invented disposable pedicure slippers. So if you think laterally and you ask why or why not, I have a favorite saying that I'm known for. The only thing I can't do is live forever, and the only thing I have to do is die. Think about those two things.
Yes.
There's nothing else.
Life and birth.
Well, that's a different subject. There's a very famous psychiatrist, 85 years old. She caught me last week at Stake 48 in Beverly Hills, and she was very smart. She made me sit next to her, and she was just so smart. My mouth was open. And she said, Mr. Cuccio, I'm going to teach you something. I said, good, tell me. I've written 10 books on psychology. She's very famous. She said, there's only 3 things important in your life. And I said, tell me. I want to know what those 3 things are. She said, you're born. That's important.
Yeah.
You have family and friends that you love. And then you die. And everything else falls in between those cracks because they're really not important. So think of the profoundness of that.
Very profound.
Yeah, I mean, you're born.
Right.
You have family and friends that you love, and then you die. What else do we have?
Right.
That's it.
You know what's interesting about this whole podcast?
And what about the money? No?
Money's only important when you don't have it.
Right.
When my mother's refrigerator broke or the car needed work and she didn't have it, it became a nightmare. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And that's probably one of the greatest things, to get back to his question, what you give up. Unfortunately, coming from poor, I thought money was God. Yeah. I thought the more money, when I had 50 million, I wanted 100 million. And I realized as I got older that money isn't a means to the end. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't give you health, or it doesn't give you happiness. It's just a way of keeping score, like a pinball
And
machine.
help the loved ones.
Yes, and help loved ones.
Right.
Help loved ones.
You know what I find interesting? Our podcast is about men talking and men opening up. And one of the things I'm taking away from what you're talking about today is ask questions. It applies to business, it could apply to relationships, could apply to life. Always be inquisitive. And if you're inquisitive and you're asking and you're seeking, you're going to come to the realizations that you're finding out in business, which is why you were successful in female cosmetics.
Absolutely. Some people get annoyed because I say to them, what did you say? Can you tell me again? And I do that in business all the time. And the one thing I learned when I was young is if you assume that you know what somebody's talking about, you could put your foot in your mouth.
Yeah.
So it's better to reiterate and go over what did you say and what did you mean, so I can answer your question honestly and not look like a fool.
Right.
I remember my wife always told me when we have fights, she says, why don't you use better English? Why don't you say in better sentences? And I always said to her, honey,
Is that an insult?
well,
This is how I talk.
it's how I talk.
Yeah.
You know, I went to What's the Matter You?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I always...
What's the matter you?
What's the matter you? Yeah. So I always say to her, honey, leave me alone. I'll say the wrong word in the wrong context or the wrong sentence, and then I'll really look like an idiot. So you just got to be yourself. And if you're a good person and you do the right thing, I always get the question is, do you ever lie? Which is a pretty profound question. And I always say to people, and I don't know if they believe it or not, is I really can't lie. And they say, why? I said, well, first of all, I'm in 90 countries. I wouldn't remember what I said 2 years ago.
Right.
And the second one is if you're a good person and you do good things and you have good karma, who cares what you think?
It's all about karma.
Exactly.
You're
So
right
why
about
lie?
that.
Why lie?
Hey, I know you've got things to do and all that, so I just want to end this conversation with, I know you well now, right? We're
Friends.
really friends, and you know what I found about you that I tell everybody, he's the most vulnerable guy, one of the most vulnerable guys in a way that I've ever met, and loyal, and whatever the persona is, you know, the big persona, I know you as a human being, and you're a Buddhist. I mean, or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it's called.
And the karmic thing you mentioned, so I'll just mention that. And I'm just proud to be with you, and I want you to know, for the past years that we've known each other, all the loyalty you personally showed me in my own family life and everything else has been beyond. And that's why I wanted you to be our first guest on the show.
Well, thank you, David. But always remember one thing. Change is good, but loyalty is great.
Right.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tony.
All right. Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate it. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.